Hey guys, today Paul is going to be reassembling the CZ-75 TS2. This is a gun that my cousin let me borrow just so I can take it apart and figure out how it works. At the beginning of the video, I've already got this gun taken apart. I'm doing video of reassembling it, and I kind of like that a little bit better because reassembling is sometimes the hardest thing to do when you're working on a gun. Now, if you want to get the diagram for this thing, the one that I have shown in the video here, I have the link in the description for that. And while you're down there, go ahead and click like and subscribe and put that little notification bell on so you know when I'm coming out with more stuff. Alright, let's start the 25-step process. Very simple. First, put the sear into the ejector and the ejector housing. So sear and spring. You can use a slave pin to hold the spring and then use a nylon hammer to tap the sear pin through and knock out the slave pin. Next, step 2, you attach the trigger bar and trigger to the trigger, or trigger bar and spring to the trigger, and gently tap with a hammer to set the pin. Then right here we have the hammer and sear engagement, and it shows where it's a full cock and half cock. Next, we insert the hammer and pin. Then we do the hammer pin retaining peg. You can probably see it there. And use tweezers or a needle nose to set that in there if you need to. Alright, now we're all the way to step 6 already. The magazine catch. We take that and the spring for that and the screw, and use a needle nose for the spring if you need to on the magazine catch. And of course you fumble with it for a bit. Next is the slide stop spring and pin, and you just fiddle with that until it seats. Then you install the trigger assembly and pin, and you start the pin with a nylon hammer, and then once you get everything set, you use a punch and a hammer to finish putting the pin in and make it flush with the frame. Next is the left-hand safety detent plunger and spring. This one isn't quite as hard to put in, but it's got its idiosyncrasies. But you can use a hook tool to set it in the little groove you'll see there on the side. Next we have the sear assembly plus 2 tiny pins on the back. And those pins are extremely easy to lose, so if you take one of these apart, be aware of that when you're taking out the sear assembly. Then you set the springs with a hook tool if you need to, and don't install the sear yet. You still have more things to install. Next, you need to install the right-hand safety detent plunger. That does not come with the spring. It's just there by itself. And you can use grease to hold that in place if you need to. And again, a hook tool to set it into the groove. Next, you have the sear assembly installation. So you double check the tiny springs on the back, make sure both of them are in their tiny holes. And again, you can use grease on that if it helps hold the springs in. Then you install the left and right safeties. And the safety has a pin, the left safety will have a pin that goes through to the right, and it goes through the sear. Then you use a hook tool to lift the sear spring so you can put the safety pin through because it has a notch on it. Alright, we're down to 14. Install the mainspring strut and pin. And then just use a hammer and punch as needed. And if you need to use something to compress the spring, you'll just have to figure that out for yourself. Number 15, install magazine guide and pin. And then function check the hammer and trigger and sear for safety. Next, you install the firing pin spring into the slide, and then the firing pin, and then the firing pin stop, and use a punch if you need to push the pin in where you put the stop on the back, and it just slides right in. Then you insert the barrel This is just getting into basic field strip now. We've got pretty much everything done. So you put the barrel in, then you put the recoil spring stop in, and it's not in the diagram shown. And put a buffer, or put the buffer on the recoil, put the buffer on the recoil spring guide, then put the recoil spring on the guide, then put that recoil spring assembly in the slide like I show here. Then put the slide on the frame, insert the slide stop, function check it, and you are ready to go shoot. And well, you still need to install the grips and the flared mag base. And after that, you have this thing put completely back together and you are ready to go shoot. It didn't hold open. She's empty. So there's something I'm gonna have to fix already. Alright, so if the magazine, or if the slide is not going to stay open, that's definitely something wrong there. So I'll have to figure out what went wrong and fix that. Hey there, I got the slide stop fixed. So, well, it was. But what was going on with this thing, and I think it's just because it's new, the slide stop itself, in fact, I'll just show this to you. This is how easy this thing is to take apart. But the slide stop here, it's engaging, but this little hole that it goes into right here is just a teensy bit tight. So when the follower of the magazine pushes up on it, it doesn't push up hard enough for it to go up and actually lock the slide. So I filed it, or I kind of sanded it down with a 4/0 steel wool to make it a little bit more smooth. And it was working in the shop, and for some reason it's not working now. But I'm going to try this anyway, and hopefully it will get better as time goes on. So I'm going to load this with one round. Let's go out here and shoot this thing. Well, it held open this time, thank goodness. So that's all it is. It just needs to be broke in a little bit. Now, I'll play magazine swap-a-roo because I have 2 more loaded mags, each one with 20 rounds. One thing I don't like about this gun, when you go to drop the slide, the thumb safety gets in the way. So you have to contort your hand and bring it around to let the slide down. So that's the only thing I don't like about it so far. One more mag. Target fell down. I'm still going to shoot at it. So she's perfectly operational. The CZ-75 TS2.